Hi everyone, my name is Tiffany Silva, and today I will be doing a presentation for the class Kinesiology 3305, and the topic I will be covering is the payment of college athletes. And so, in the presentation, I will be discussing whether it's legal or not, the moral values behind it, the history behind it, all the scandals, things like that. So, let's get started. Alright, so everyone knows what a college athlete is. It's a simple definition. It's a person in college that plays a sport. But for the sake of this presentation and this topic, I wanted to have a different connotation towards it. So I came up with this definition of what a college athlete is. And so I said it's an individual who is an amateur level athlete that is not paid in a salary, so they do not get paid sponsorships, things like that. But they are provided scholarships to play instead, and they also maintain a certain academic level of schooling. So they don't get sponsorships, they don't get paid to play, but they do get scholarships to cover their tuition to play at that school. Also, they must have a certain academic standing to continue to have that scholarship and to continue to play. Alright, and then the life cycle of a college athlete. Pretty simple, just to give people a basis exactly of, what a college athlete does while they're in college. And the first step I put was, of course, getting accepted into the college of their dreams to play the sport of their dreams. And when they get accepted, typically they get a scholarship that covers either a part or a whole of their tuition. And then in step 2, they play the sport at that college for so many years while also maintaining their academic performance. So throughout the years from freshman year to senior year, we'll see them play the sport, go to training, go to practice, go to class, and all things like that. And then senior year comes around, graduation time is here, everyone's favorite part. And when the college athlete graduates, they can either get drafted into a professional league, whether it be a major league, a minor league, and then they would actually get paid for that. Or they can go out, get a job that's not athletic related or playing related, just a regular 9-to-5 job. And so basically, I made this slide to show you that throughout the whole time that a college athlete is in college, that they're not getting paid to play the sport. They're getting their college tuition covered, but they're never actually getting paid to play. They can get paid to play once they graduate and if they get drafted into a professional league. Alright, so the whole point of this presentation, the payment of college athletes, is paying of college athletes, is it against the law? Is it illegal? And it actually is. So if you were to pay a college athlete, it actually goes against the antitrust laws, and it specifically goes against the Sherman Act rule. And the next slide will cover more of exactly what those laws and rules are. Okay, so antitrust law. It's a broad category of federal laws and state laws that are meant to keep the operations of businesses fair and also honest. They regulate the way companies do business by leveling the playing field of the free market, and they prevent any businesses from having too much power. So basically, this law acts as the watchdog for businesses to make sure they are staying within their means, keeping them in their lane. They're not going too far, not trying to overpower their business, become greedy. They just try to make sure every business stays where they're supposed to stay. The Sherman Act, on the other hand, it's actually a subcategory of antitrust laws. And it was enacted by the United States Congress in 1890. And this was actually to curb concentrations of power that interfere with trade and reduce economic competition. And then the NCAA said that the payment of college athletes actually violated the act of paying the college athletes because it was an unreasonable restraint of trade. Okay, so background part 1. So, of course, there's been a lot of debate, there's been a lot of controversy and speculation of whether or not it's okay for college athletes to make money for playing the sport, aside from the money they're already being awarded from the college tuition. And the NCAA said it's fairly typical to see players produce a lot of income from their name, their image, their likenesses, but they're never actually compensated for those factors. So you may see a college player in a commercial, or they're the star player, you're seeing them all on your social media, you're seeing them on t-shirts, you're seeing them on things as cups at bars, things like that. But they're not actually getting paid to be marketed in that way. And so this is where the issue comes in, and people thinking, well, shouldn't they get paid? Or should they not get paid? All right. And so there was one scandal in particular that stuck out to me, and it was the scandal with Ed O'Bannon. And Ed O'Bannon, who was actually a basketball player at UCLA, and he filed a lawsuit against the NCAA in 2009, so about 10 years ago, for the usage of his name and his image in their commercials. And then the Ninth Circuit's Court, which is a federal court within the United States that's charged of hearing cases from across the western region of the nation, they initially ruled that not paying their student athletes violated the Sherman Antitrust Act. So at this point, the Ninth Circuits agreed with Ed O'Bannon. They said, you're right, you should be compensated, your image is being used. But then they actually recanted this ruling and decided that the maximum payment that college athletes can receive from the school is no more than the cost of their attendance. Basically saying that the only money they can get can cover their tuition fees. If their tuition's $40,000, that's how much they can get, no more. This rule is still instilled to this day under the simple notion that payment of student athletes, it blurs the line between amateurism, minor leagues, and amateurism and then minor league status. And so when both are getting paid, it starts to make you wonder what the difference actually is between the two. All right, so another scandal I would like to talk about is the one with O.J. Mayo. He received improper gifts before and during his time at USC, and the NCAA investigated this matter, and they ruled that Mayo was actually in the wrong for receiving these gifts. And then in 2010, the USC declared that Mayo was ineligible for the 2002-2008 season, and the school was vacated on all 21 teams' wins during the season, and so give the Trojans a record of 0-12. So basically, his improper gifts cost the whole season for the Trojans. They had a 21-12 record, and it completely dropped to 0-12. So it just shows you how serious this law is taken, and that players shouldn't be receiving any compensation for playing a college sport. Alright, so another scandal I'd like to talk about is the one with Reggie Bush. So Reggie Bush and his family had received improper benefits during Bush's time at USC, same college that O.J. Mayo was at. He received upwards to $200,000 from a sports agent, and the USC was put on probation for 4 whole years, and they were forced to vacate the Trojans' last 2 wins of the 2004 season, as well as the 2005 season. And then the Trojans will not be eligible to compete in bowl games in 2010 and 2011. And Reggie Bush was actually forced to return his Heisman Trophy. Alright, so the hard facts, my favorite part, because facts don't tell lies. During the 2011-2012 academic year, the 227 football bowl subdivision and football championship subdivision universities of the NCAA received $2.3 billion from student fees, state government money, and the funding from their own university. And then, this is my favorite fact of them all, is that during 2010-2011 academic year, the football bowl subdivision university spent an astounding $92,000 per athlete on all their teams. So if there's 100 athletes, $92,000, you do the math. That's a lot of money to spend per athlete at the school. but only spent roughly $13,600 per student, putting the ratio at a 7-to-1. So, for example, the Southeastern Conference, $164,000 was spent per athlete, and $13,400 was spent per student, making the ratio 12-to-1, which is even worse. And then it's predicted that since 2010, the athlete to student spending gaps have actually increased. So you can just show that it seems like colleges are putting more emphasis and more time in their college athletes versus the rest of the student body. Okay, so what does this all mean? To kind of reiterate how I ended the last slide, universities across the nation are already funding so much money towards their athletes, but they're not putting nearly the same amount of investment in their academic student body. Alright, so these are reasons why people feel society should be paid, or why the athletes in college sports should be paid to play. Reason number one being, being a student athlete is a full-time job since they have to balance the weight room, the court, or the field, classes, studying, and film sessions. So things of that sort. Also, it stated that a college athlete typically spends 43.3 hours a week practicing and playing their sport, which is more than a full-time job. The second reason being is that it is technically considered an extracurricular activity to play the sport, but the schedule of the NCAA tournaments actually counteracts this, and student athletes miss so much school. There's a lot of out-of-state games, and there's a lot of the times the teams have to go on buses or planes to go to those games where they miss valuable class time and valuable study time within those classes. The third reason being is they bring in revenue for their team and university, especially when they have the opportunity to participate in championship games, which is very true. When they're in championship games, you see that college get higher and higher, not closer to the championship. They do bring a lot of money for that school. So people feel like if it wasn't for that team or that player, they wouldn't be in this situation, being so close to the championship and getting all this money and revenue for their school. So they feel like they should get a portion of that money. Simply, they're the ones putting the hard effort on the field or on the court. They're the ones having the blood, the sweat, the tears, playing their heart out on the field to make sure their team wins for victory. Another reason being is the majority of the revenue received does not go towards academics, but rather it goes to the coaches, athletic directors, and administrators. It's not even going to the student body itself. It's going to part of the athletics committee, but it's not going to the players, which seems unfair that athletic directors, coaches, administration are getting the money, but the actual players aren't seeing any of this. And then the last reason is called the Flutie effect, which means a surge in college admissions following a big sports win. So this college goes, they win a championship, all of a sudden the next school year they're getting all these college applications in of people wanting to go to their school. This is bringing a lot of revenue, a lot of popularity. It's bringing a lot of things for the college that wouldn't have been there if that team wouldn't have won that said championship. So it's pretty interesting to think that these players are actually doing so much for their school but not getting compensated to play. Alright, so reasons why college athletes should not get paid. In the year 2013, it was statistically shown when asked the public, 69% of them said that they were opposed to the paying of student athletes because it would be more money in addition to the scholarship, where they didn't see that as fair. Because you see the students of just a simple academic body, they either get scholarships or they plain don't. And then the athletes, they get scholarships as well, but they don't see it as fair for them to get money and their other student body is not. And then another reason being is it would change the nature of college athletics altogether. Only about 7% of high school student athletes are given the chance to play in colleges. And so it's an opportunity in itself, and it's something, basically, they should be grateful they have the opportunity to play, and now it's like almost they're asking for more on top of that. And then if payments were used as an incentive to go to that college, it would be easy for college athletes to transfer from one university to another university each year with the highest offer. And it would just cause a lot of issues, and there would just be kids being traded back and forth between colleges because they're going to go to the one that pays them the most, and it would kind of just take away the whole nature of what college athletics and college sport is. It would also potentially cut funding from less popular college programs, and in turn put other students at a disadvantage for a chance for them to gain their education and experience the college of their dreams. So if they have to get this extra money to pay the athletes somehow, and that money may be taken from school organizations just to give to them, which would hurt many students' college experience. So that would not be good. Another reason is they're not professional players. It's an extracurricular activity they participate in while getting their higher education, and it would change college athletics' motives of going to college in the first place. Your whole point of going to college is to get that education, to get that bachelor's degree, to graduate, and so on. If you bring money into the situation, college athletes aren't going to play and to get their education, they're going simply to get a paycheck. So it would just change a lot of dynamics for what college athletics is and what it means. Less incentive to go and participate in class. If they're getting a paycheck, they may not feel the need to go to class. You go to class, you go to college to get a good job, to make a good living. But if they're already making a lot of money while playing a college sport, they may just lose motivation to go to class altogether. And this also can create team tension if the star players are paid more than the other players. And so where's the fine line? Does the star player get paid more? Do all the players get paid equal? Does this sports team get paid more than this sports team at the school? It just would bring a lot of conflict and a lot of questions into play. Alright, so the controversy and the opposition of the present. So to this day, we're still seeing a lot of debate over, is it okay? Should we start paying these college athletes? And actually last month in May 2019, the California State Senate passed the Fair Pay to Play Act, which would enable college team members to profit from their names, their likenesses, and their image in a variety of commercial entities. However, the college itself would still be prohibited from paying the athletes directly. So, Democratic State Senator and the bill's chief sponsor, Nancy Skinner, said NCAA rules disproportionately harm students from low-income families and are particularly unfair to female athletes since women have fewer professional sports opportunities than men. So, basically, this act is saying the college won't pay for you still. That's not what they're trying to go at. But they're saying all those sponsorships, all the commercials that are promoting them, we'll have to pay them. We'll have to give them compensation, which makes more sense because it wouldn't be the school paying it, and the budgeting for it wouldn't come out of the school's organizations. It would come from sponsors. And then Nancy Skinner makes a good point because the NCAA rules, they do harm students from low-income families, and they are unfair to female athletes because they don't have the same privileges that men athletes do. So she just makes a good point here that there needs to be change. Alright, so my opinions. So of course, after doing all my research, looking into all these articles and things like that, I form my own opinion. And my opinion is on whether college athletes should be paid is yes and no. So from the research I conducted, I personally believe that college athletes should not get paid to play in their college career. They already get compensation through their scholarships, and they should not be spoiled with money that could be benefiting and funding their fellow colleagues' organizations or the improvements of their school. However, I do feel like they should get some sort of compensation from sponsors like Nike, Adidas, Under Armour, Gatorade, and so on if they choose to put them in one of their commercials. If they were to get paid, it begs the question now, what about the other students at the university? Where do they fall in? Like I said earlier, does the whole team get paid equal? Does this team get paid more than this team? Does the star players get paid more? It asks a lot of questions. Is it fair, basically? Also, if students were to get paid, it would complicate matters at the university and would strike an array of issues like what the budget would be. Do the players get paid equal, like I said? Do the sports get paid more than others? And what's the difference between college sports and minor leagues? It would totally change the dynamic. People watch college sports because of how it is. People watch major league sports because of how it is. It's two different entities. But when you bring salary into it, it may mesh the two and change things completely. Alright, and here are my references. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I hope you enjoyed this presentation.